Translator, Ninetales Fish Creek. The oasis hundreds of miles downstream? Chinmu returned to disabled elderly village before night fell. He set down the bamboo basket stuffed full of weapons within the village, and at once the villagers were shocked. They swarmed around him, voices piling up as they pressed him with questions. Chinmu spoke of everything he had encountered, and Blind's complexion shifted faintly. He cried out, "That temple on the oasis is suppressing a territorial-level strange beast. An exceedingly formidable demon, most skilled in transformations. Her name is Woman Wu. You actually dared run to that temple and steal back all her treasures?" Granny C cried out as well. "That Woman Wu? I once passed by that ruined temple and beat her up when I saw she'd eaten far too many people. In the end, she hid behind the Buddha statue. That Buddha was strange and wished to subdue me, so I did not beat her to death. There was something very odd about that Buddha statue. I've met her too. She's a terrifying great demon, able to rival powerful practitioners of the Seven Stars realm." Cripple asked. "Muir, after stealing her things, how did you escape from Woman Wu's hands?" Chinmu knew he could not keep it hidden any longer. He told everyone about the devil language he had learned from the vestige in the valley, and then explained how he had used the voices of God, Devil, and Buddha to subdue Woman Wu completely. The villagers were struck dumb upon hearing Chinmu's tale. After a long while, Old Ma finally let out a breath and said, "Young and promising. Young and promising." Cripple, Deaf, and the rest all nodded, then raised their thumbs. Admiration without end. Woman Wu, the great demon with strength comparable to a Seven Stars realm practitioner, had actually been extorted and robbed by Chinmu. How young and promising. It made them all proud, for he had not failed the teachings they had given. Mute picked up a few weapons, swung them several times, then shook his head. With a few hand signs, he indicated that the quality of these spirit weapons was not very good, and that they were useless. "When tomorrow comes, I'll go to Border Dragon City and sell these spirit weapons. While I'm there, I'll also buy some spices, fabric rolls, and fine wine." Granny C smiled. "It's time to sell my livestock, too." Chinmu's spirit lifted. Border Dragon City? He had grown up in disabled elderly village since he was young, and only recently had he been allowed to go out. He had only heard of Border Dragon City and had never been there. "We can't bring you there yet. You're still too young." Granny C shook her head. Chinmu was disappointed. He hesitated for a moment, then gathered his courage and confessed, "Granny C, Grandpa Ma, there's still one more thing. My overlord body has awakened." Silence fell all around. After a while, Old Ma, Cripple, Blind, and Granny C began to celebrate, while Mute kept yapping non-stop. Only Deaf hadn't seen what Chinmu said and was confused why these old fellows had suddenly gone mad. Not until he saw Chinmu repeat it again did he finally understand, and then he burst into huge laughter. Blind shouted loudly, "Village Chief Apothecary, come quickly. The Overlord body has awakened." Butcher was brimming with excitement. He threw back his head and howled toward the heavens. "Village Chief, Apothecary, the Overlord body has finally awakened." When Chinmu returned to the village Chief had been seated before his house, with Apothecary at his side, brewing a pot of tea and pouring a cup for him. Yet Village Chief had no limbs, so Apothecary had to lift the teacup to his mouth. The two often drank tea together in a relaxed and refined manner, living in quiet contentment. Just as Village Chief was halfway through drinking, he heard Blind and Old Ma shouting. He instantly spat his tea out through his nose, eyes, and mouth. 2 fine jets of water sprayed high from the inner corners of his eyes. Crack! The teacup in Apothecary's hand was crushed to pieces as well, tea splashing onto Village Chief's face. Wide-eyed, they stared at each other in disbelief, mouths slowly opening without realizing it. Apothecary came to his senses and stuttered. Overlord body has awakened?" Village Chief seemed not to have returned to his senses yet, still staring blankly. Cripple limped over and nodded vigorously, smiling. "That's right, the Overlord body has awakened. I checked just now and found his vital chi 3 times denser and purer than it was this morning. Furthermore, at the heart of his brows there's an odd fluctuation. The spirit embryo has awakened. It's clearly fusing with his consciousness. This is the sign that his spirit embryo is awakening." Chinmu walked over and saw Apothecary's mouth stretching even wider, as if he had stuffed 2 duck eggs inside. Meanwhile, water still leaked from Village Chief's lower eyelids. He thought, Grandpa Village Chief and Grandpa Apothecary are surprised as expected, but aren't they a little too surprised? Apothecary shut his mouth and quickly asked, Moore, has your overlord body really awakened? Chinmu nodded and said, It awakened when I wasn't paying any attention. Apothecary nearly choked himself to death and mumbled, Awakened when he wasn't paying any attention. Village Chief finally returned to his senses and chuckled. No doubt about it. Moore truly is the overlord body. With my extremely profound knowledge, I could never have deduced wrongly. It's only natural for him to awaken his overlord body. Coop, coop! Apothecary wore an extremely strange expression. He hurriedly coughed a few times to cover it up. It's wonderful that the overlord body has awakened. However, Moore, you mustn't grow arrogant just because you've awakened your overlord body. Your road of cultivation has only just begun. Do you understand? Chinmu nodded in agreement. Village Chief smiled. What Apothecary said is right. The path of the overlord body is unusually difficult, so you can never slack off. Apothecary, I'm feeling a little tired. Please send me back inside. Apothecary understood and sent him back into his house. Inside the house, the two old men looked at each other in dismay. After a long while, Apothecary tried his best to lower his voice and said, Village Chief, is Moore really the overlord body? Of course not. Village Chief answered resolutely. Then how did he awaken? How would I know? The two old men looked at each other in dismay again, unsure how to explain Chinmu's phenomenon. After a while, Apothecary tried to ask, could a mortal body open the spirit embryo wall? Mortal body wall break? I've never heard of that before. Chinmu would be the first. Village Chief suddenly smiled. Apothecary, maybe Chinmu really will become an overlord body and walk an extraordinary path. Wasn't that our goal? Apothecary smiled too. Mortal body to overlord body. Moore already awakened his mortal body, and the path of his overlord body has only just begun. It's as if I can already see him punching out a dragon with one strike. Village Chief nodded, smiling. Exactly. We can't say for sure, but with his spirit and will, he might even go farther than we did. The two old foxes laughed together, then went out of the room again. Village Chief coughed and summoned Chinmu over, asking how he had awakened his spirit embryo. Chinmu told him how, at the instant when the God voice, Devil voice, and Buddha voice were locked in struggle, he used his vital chi to smash through the spirit embryo wall. Village Chief's eyes went blank as he mumbled, There's actually such a way. He could not help but sigh with sorrow. Chinmu's chance was something others could not imitate. To have the voices of God, Devil, and Buddha clash against one another, and then, on top of that, to have the guts to take the initiative and learn the Devil language, using the Devil voice to contend against the God voice, resulting in such a coincidental opening. These actions were simply reckless, truly not knowing how to write the word death. Even if others happened upon such an opportunity, they would likely die to the power within the voices of God, Devil, and Buddha before they ever broke through the spirit embryo wall. Others did not know the dangers hidden within, yet he understood them all too clearly. Was the power of gods and devils something a mortal could covet? For a mortal, to covet the power of gods and devils was a road that led nowhere but death. Yet Chinmu had succeeded in an unfathomable way, leaving Village Chief more or less puzzled. However, what he did not know was that Chinmu had nearly been killed by the clash between the God voice and the Devil voice. He was fortunate that the jade pendant before his chest had protected his life. That was why he did not die. Village Chief thoroughly examined Chinmu's cultivation progress, revealing a look of astonishment before he covered it up. He encouraged him. Mu'er, cultivate with all your strength and don't disappoint us. Now that you've awakened your overlord body, you are a martial arts practitioner, no longer a little child. Chinmu nodded solemnly. By now the sky had already darkened, and the village bonfire blazed to life. Old Ma and the others began barbecuing strange beasts they had caught, celebrating for Chinmu. Granny C scampered over and hauled Chinmu away. Village Chief, Apothecary, come over too, let's feast! You two go ahead first. Apothecary and I will come right after. After Village Chief watched Granny C and Chinmu leave, he said softly, Apothecary, Moore's vital chi is extraordinarily dense. Among the spirit embryo realm martial practitioners I've seen, his cultivation is the greatest. Apothecary looked toward the crowd celebrating around the bonfire and asked quietly, "How dense is it?" My cultivation in the spirit embryo realm was similar, perhaps even weaker than his. Village chief spoke casually. What I meant was my cultivation at the pinnacle of my spirit embryo realm, whereas he has only just entered the spirit embryo realm and will still continue to grow. Apothecary's body trembled violently. He stared at him in disbelief and cried out, "To be on par with you when you were at the spirit embryo realm? What kind of existence are you? How could he?" But he precisely did that. Translator Ninetails, editor. Fish Creek, the village chief, wore a calm face and smiled. When his spirit embryo had yet to awaken, his vital chi cultivation was already stronger than those martial men of the spirit embryo realm, and even denser than mine was when I stood at his stage. Now that it has awakened, he will only grow stronger, striving with all he had for these many years, and with the countless blood of the four spirits that you people use to nourish him, it is only fitting that he should attain such an accomplishment. The apothecary was still struck dumb with shock and muttered, "But denser than yours back then. At that time you were the—" "I am nothing more than a crippled old man." The village chief cut him off, still smiling. "You cannot use me to measure the youths of this age. My only worry now is how to let Muir unleash the full might of his vital chi, since his vital chi bears no attributes. Let us go over now, and not keep them waiting any longer." The apothecary's heart gave a small jolt. The only reason vital chi could unleash its full power was because it carried attributes. With no attributes in Chinmu's vital chi, it was only natural that he could not fully unleash its might. Even if he had awakened his spirit embryo, and his cultivation was far denser than ordinary people's, it was useless if he could not bring forth his full power. When the two arrived at the bonfire, Death took out his iron ears and rinsed them in wine before plugging them back into the holes of his ears. He poured the wine into the bonfire, and the flames immediately roared and leapt fiercely. Death smiled and asked, "Village chief, we tested just now. Even though Chinmu has awakened his overlord body, he still can't unleash the power of his overlord body's vital chi. With your vast knowledge, you definitely know how to draw out the power of his overlord body's vital chi, right?" At this moment, the apothecary could feel the old man's head beside him swell to 3 times its usual size. The village chief lifted his head and looked helplessly at the apothecary beside him. Yet the apothecary turned his head away and raised a toast to Old Ma. "N, is Muir's overlord body strong or not?" the village chief asked. Deaf understood and praised at once. "Strong. His vital chi is extremely tenacious and hard to disperse." The others felt the same and nodded one after another. When Chinmu had clashed with senior brother Ku of Li Jiang's 5 disciples, they had already seen what was extraordinary about Chinmu's vital chi. With his vital chi wrapped around that small stick, senior brother Ku's treasure sword had been unable to chop it. This meant Chinmu's vital chi was exceptionally tenacious. The village chief asked again, "Is his vital chi dense or not?" Deaf replied, "Frighteningly dense. Even when I was at his realm, my vital chi was nowhere close to his." When he finished, the rest felt the same as well. Chinmu's vital chi was too dense, so dense it was beyond belief. Even though his spirit embryo had just awakened, it was as if he had already cultivated for dozens of years. The village chief patiently guided the talk, asking slowly, "Since his vital chi is so tenacious and durable, why can't it unleash its full power?" This time Deaf did not stay on the same thread. He slapped his thigh and cried out, "That's right! Why is it so, village chief?" The village chief nearly choked to death on that answer, feeling as though Deaf had stabbed him twice in the chest. Luckily, beside him, Mute grew excited and began hopping about, gesticulating wildly while going, "Ah! Ah!" without pause. Mute is right. Deaf finally understood and said, "Muir's vital chi is so tenacious and so dense, yet he can't unleash his full power. That means the problem doesn't lie in his overlord body's vital chi. Our techniques aren't suitable for him. That's why he can't unleash his full power. The problem lies in us." As though a great boulder had been lifted from his shoulders, the village chief was about to heave a sigh of relief when Deaf asked again, "Here comes another problem. How do we unleash the power of his overlord body's vital chi? We're all clueless, so with your wide knowledge, what's your wise opinion, village chief? The village chief wished he could grow a pair of arms and strangle him to death. Yet he truly did know some of the reasons Qin Mu could not unleash the full power of his vital chi. The vital chi of the four great spirit bodies each carried their own properties. For example, White Tiger vital chi bore the properties of the metal element, allowing it to transform into weapons of great offense and defense. White Tiger vital chi could also become razor-sharp claws to tear an opponent apart, or become a shield to block an enemy's strike. Green Dragon vital chi bore the properties of lightning, commanding thunder, and possessing healing abilities. Vermilion Bird vital chi bore the properties of fire. Fierce and overbearing, the apothecary and Mute the blacksmith were this kind of spirit body. Whether the apothecary refined medicine or the blacksmith fed his furnace, both relied on the properties of their vital chi. There was also Black Tortoise vital chi, which mastered defense and the control of water. When such vital chi was displayed, it would also carry water properties. Yet Qin Mu's vital chi carried none of these properties, and that was why he could not unleash his full power. Even though his cultivation was strong, it did not help him greatly in increasing his might. But knowing the reason did not mean he knew how to solve it. Mu'er, what does your spirit embryo look like? The village chief asked Qin Mu. Qin Mu described the strange spirit embryo within his spirit embryo divine treasure, stunning everyone around the bonfire as they stared at each other in shock at the human-shaped spirit embryo. This was the first time in the world they had ever heard of something like a human-shaped spirit embryo. Qin Mu was also slightly bewildered and asked, "Granny, Grandpa, Ma, don't your spirit embryos look like how you looked when you were kids?" Granny C shook her head and sighed. "Nope. No wonder you are the overlord body. Even your spirit embryo is different from ours. How enviable. Granny's spirit embryo is a white tiger spirit embryo, a little white tiger." "My spirit embryo is the green dragon," Old Ma said. Deaf replied, "My spirit embryo is the black tortoise." Mute began gesticulating again, indicating that his spirit embryo was the vermilion bird. The village chief closed his eyes and sank deep into thought. The four great spirit bodies were gifted with their spirit embryo divine treasure innately opened. They only needed to awaken their spirit embryo to become a martial practitioner. Even if the spirit embryos among the four great spirit bodies differed, they were often similar and not much different from the four main categories. Some spirit embryos were not exactly white tiger, green dragon, vermilion bird, or black tortoise, yet they were still classified under these four categories. That was why the vital chi of the four great spirit bodies had four different kinds of attributes. Qin Mu's spirit embryo was human-shaped and had no attributes. That was why it was harder for him to awaken, and even harder for him to unleash the full power of his vital chi. The village chief's mind churned, searching for a method to activate the might of the overlord body's vital chi. Yet even with his exceptional knowledge, he still could not decide on a way. Seeing his expression, Granny C suddenly understood what was happening and laughed. Village chief knew Mu'er was an overlord body, but didn't know the cultivation method for an overlord body? The village chief's face reddened slightly, and he nodded. All the villagers showed disappointment, while Blind muttered, "You have the widest knowledge among us. Yet if even you don't know the cultivation method for the overlord body, doesn't that mean Mu'er's overlord body is going to be wasted?" Everyone around the bonfire fell silent. Butcher suddenly exclaimed, "The overlord body technique was created by a human, right?" Everyone looked at him, puzzled. Butcher chuckled. "If the overlord body technique was created by a human, why can't we create it ourselves? Even if we can't create it, Mu'er can create it himself. There's no one I've ever yielded to, so I managed to create my pig-slaughtering knife skill. If all of you are frightened by the challenge in front of you, I would look down on all of you. Mu'er, don't let me look down on you." Qin Mu nodded heavily, a surge of blood and fervor rising as he shouted, "Don't worry, Grandpa Butcher. I definitely won't let you guys down." Butcher laughed loudly and patted him hard on the shoulder. The others also started laughing, and the solemn air from earlier vanished like smoke. Seeing this, The knot gnawing at the village chief's heart loosened without him noticing, and he too laughed loudly. Lying to them that Muir is the overlord body, so they would have the will to live on, made me bash my head into a brick wall, obsessively trying to cover up the lie. What I didn't expect was that they already had the will, and yet I'm still here racking my brains. With his worries dissolved, he felt unbound in both mind and body. Chinmu's arrival had stirred the villagers of disabled elderly village to keep living and had also spurred him to continue striving. Looking at him, the apothecary revealed a smile. The village chief had not been this happy, nor smiled like this, for a very long time. I feel we definitely need to push the overlord body to its limits, so it can unleash the full power of its vital chi. Beneath the bonfire's light, Butcher's face looked several times more sinister. One does not survive if he has never been insane. The overlord body is stronger than a spirit body, and its vital chi will definitely be stronger as well. The conditions for its power to be unleashed will probably be stricter too. That's why it must be driven to its limits to force out its power. Cripple nodded. Muir's iron boots need to be thicker, and the amount of iron weights has to increase to force him to run even faster. Blind tapped his bamboo cane and said, "His cultivation was far too relaxed before. From now on we need to raise the tempo to force out his potential." Old Ma replied, "That's right, we also have to work much harder to force out his potential." Mute made a few hand signs and let out a few sounds. Chinmu felt deeply moved, yet at the same time an ominous feeling crept up. He was touched by how zealous the elders were regarding him, but why did every sentence have to include the words "force out"? The apothecary narrowed his eyes and joined in. "Supplement. We'll keep supplementing him. Supplement him until his vital chi can unleash its full power. There are many rare and unique beasts and herbs in our great ruins. I can use them to concoct spirit pellets and wonder medicines. My herb garden outside the village has all manner of spirit herbs, enough to supplement him until, if you pinch him, his skin would even leak spirit fluid out." "Apothecary, looks like it'll cost you a king's ransom for this." Everyone laughed.